In to join us here. This is Aileen Crotty from the Film by Bike Film Festival, and I'm so excited to have on the line today Jason Hall from RiDetroit. Jason is the host of Film by Bike Detroit. He's also the founder of Slow Roll Detroit. He knows all about the power of building community through bikes, and we thought what better time than now to bring Jason on to chat about all the great work that he does in Detroit. So Jason, good morning. It's great to have you on here.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So I know you're a lifelong Detroiter, and we know that on the global scale, Detroit, people have different ideas of what Detroit is. And you've really done some amazing work there to use the bicycle as a way to show people a Detroit they may not have ever seen and experienced otherwise, even those who have lived there all their lives. So tell us a little bit more about your history as a founder of Slow Roll and the work that you've done in the Detroit bike community.
I'm proud to say that I'm one of the founders of Slow Roll Detroit. We started in 2010. This will actually be the 10th anniversary of it. And I'm proud to say that we sort of catapulted ourselves into being one of the world's largest weekly bike rides, averaging between 5,000 and 7,000 people a week that come down to Detroit from really all over the world these days to see Detroit in its true light, without the media glow, and you really get on the ground level and see the city from the best way that we all know the best way to see any city is on a bicycle.
Yeah, definitely. And what was the scene like there for Slow Roll as you were getting started? How many people were coming out, and what were people feeling and thinking as they joined you?
So when we first started out, we joked. I think the first photo I ever took had 6 people in it. And so we averaged about 20 or 30 people for about a year. And then I think what really pushed it into the forefront was the attachment of ownership to the city of Detroit. Like, we never said this is our ride. Like the people who started it, we always said it's Detroit's ride. And I think once people attached to that and showed that pride, that's what exponentially made it grow. And that's really what Detroit's bike scene is. I feel like it's, I've been all over the place, and I feel like it's unlike any other in the sense that there's so many different kinds of bicycling scenes within one scene in Detroit. There's not just the spandex, but we have people from the neighborhoods who build their own bikes now. We've got bike clubs. I mean, there's just such a melting pot, which is a true show really of what Detroit has always been, this melting pot of everything and its own ability to be yourself.
And what year was that Slow Roll got started?
We say 2010, okay. But realistically, 2010 was more like we're just riding with our friends. 2011 was really the year where we started to recognize we can make flyers, we can make posters, and really promote this community building event. The first year, we just wanted to ride bikes with our friends and see neighborhoods that we had become kind of unfamiliar with in our own city.
So now Slow Roll is arguably one of the largest weekly rides in the world. What are the numbers like these days, and what's the scene like with Slow Roll these days?
It's crazy because it's so hard to put your hand on what the numbers are. Yeah. Because, so Mondays, it used to be really just Slow Roll's night. So we could count and say there's 5,000, 7,000 people here. But now there's probably 2 or 3 rides that spawn off of that ride the same night.
Cool.
So you're still talking between 3,000 and 4,000 people a week on a good week. The weeks where we hit the mega thousands, those are the weeks that are perfect weather, But you're still getting 5,000 people a week coming down here every week to ride. I don't ride every week anymore because I'm doing some other stuff. But it's oddly enough, I planned all the routes for the last 10 years. So there's 2 or 3 that go past my house.
Oh, fun.
So I get to watch 2 or 3 times a summer pass me.
I think that is one of the coolest things about a bike event is when the founder can sit back and not have to be there all the time, not have to be involved, maybe never show up, but yet the event continues. And to me, that is such a grand sign of a success. We have a lot of cool events like that here in Portland where the founders have absolutely nothing to do with the event anymore, but clearly it was a great idea. It's still around to this day, and other people are carrying the torch. And I think that's a really healthy sign of success right there.
That was like our goal when we started it. We said, one day we can walk away from this and it'll just be a city staple. It won't be an event that is put together by two people. It'll just be understood that Mondays are slow roll Mondays. And even if you're not at slow roll, you should be on a bike in the city of Detroit somewhere.
Yeah.
And we're very proud of the fact that we sort of invented this self-moving machine other than needing to get porta potties and things of that nature. But people know Mondays, the city knows now from 5 o'clock pretty much to like 9, 10 o'clock, the streets are owned by bikes, and that's a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. I also love, you think about those numbers and this huge mass of people out there together. But one of the things I love is the way your vibe and your message to everyone was that we're a community. And if you see something you don't like, if you see someone do something you don't like on the ride, well, someone's not going to come in and save the day. It's up to you to speak up and say something to that person. And it sounds like you've had really great success with that idea of just communities, the community sticking together to support each other along the way and make the ride a better place to be.
Absolutely. I grew up in Detroit, and Detroit has always been that for me. I tell a story of the block that I grew up on. I had 10 aunts and uncles, and I really didn't have blood aunts and uncles, but it felt like that because we all looked out for each other in the community. So if one kid needed help, they got help from everybody. And so that message has just resonated throughout my life in everything that I do. So it just made sense that, once again, like, this isn't my ride. We're here. We made this for everybody. So in order for this to work, everybody has to chip in. That means from the rider who's there, to the police officer that's helping us get through, to the person that's not littering. All that has to come together to make a beautiful thing. I think that transcends not only biking, but the real world. Everybody has to come together in a community in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And what better way to do that than while rolling around on bikes and seeing the city? Like, what a great idea. That's the best.
Of course.
Oh man, I bet on those summer days when the sweet evening air and you guys are just cruising, I would love to experience that. That sounds like magic right there for sure.
I tell people, like, you can we have a ton of videos on YouTube. You have a ton of videos everywhere. But there's nothing like being in a group like that. I've never felt anything like it when everybody's hugging. I tell a story also of a guy. Obviously I'm a African American male. I never in life thought one of my best friends would be a 70-year-old white rich real estate agent. But I hang out with him and we connect.
Yeah.
And the bike was the basic premise, but we've grown beyond that. And I think that's the beauty of slow rolls. When you show up, it's not just the bike. The bike is merely, no pun intended, the vehicle to bring people together, to show that our differences are okay. And so when you see all these people from the suburbs and the city coming together and, like I said, hugging and talking about what they're doing, it's overwhelming at times.
Yeah, I totally know that idea that we like bikes. We don't have to like everything in common to get along. And in the way the bicycle can bring together people who would not otherwise share space together, I think is really powerful and really exciting. I've gotten to know so many interesting people over the years simply because we like riding bikes together. And I think that's
Absolutely. Great. Absolutely. Like all my friends, I used to have this group of friends that all kind of had the same way we thought and did our thing, but now I have this group of people around me that are just diverse in every possible way. So I feel like I've grown more in the last 10 years than I probably grew in my entire life, just because of the amount of people that I met and the amount of cool things that I experienced. So, and yes, a bike, literally, that's it. And I think what gets us over that hump is that the majority of people can ride a bike. And if they can't, there's a bike that you can generally find that people can ride, whether it be recumbent, whether it be even getting in a pedicab and being on wheels. Everybody can somehow access wheels. And I think that's the ease of that is what brings people together.
And I know Slow Roll doesn't just happen in Detroit. It's really cool to see that there have been little, I don't know if you call them chapters or whatnot, but other Slow Rolls popping up around the US. That's really cool to see as well.
Yeah, it was. So we did an Apple commercial, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. We were contacted by over 130 countries worldwide on starting slow rolls. And at the time, it was really overwhelming. We were trying to figure out how to control it. And I just have accepted the fact that there's no controlling it. I actually suggest that start one in your own town. Like I used to get all worried and say, well, we want everything to be the same but no, we just want people on bikes. So by all means, start a slow roll in your town, start a slow roll in your city. Contact slowroll.org and see how it works. Build and make a community, because I think it'd be awesome if you could ride like Detroit on Monday, Cleveland on Tuesday, Chicago on Wednesday. You could literally make a nationwide route. So that would be rad.
You could be a Slow Roll groupie.
There already are. Trust me, if you made this nationwide in that sense, there would definitely be people who have ridden every single one.
That's so cool. Well, Slow Roll is just one phase of all the amazing things that you do. You're now on to overseeing RiDetroit. Tell us a little bit more about that project.
So RiDetroit, after starting Slow Roll and getting thousands of people on bikes, I've been really hanging out in Minneapolis for the last couple of years, and I fell in love with a program that they had in Minneapolis where everybody gets a bike. So I decided to step away from Slow Roll and sort of focus on a couple of smaller entities and smaller things that can sort of feed what I'm trying to do. When you start a ride and you have thousands and thousands of people, sometimes getting the message out to everyone is a very difficult thing to do, especially when the last person in the line is 6 blocks away. So RiDetroit is a smaller entity where we do tours, and we're really helping to promote the electric bike culture. A couple of years ago, I'll be honest, I was that guy as a bike rider who was kind of apprehensive, but I've really fallen in love with the pedal assist ability of e-bikes, and RiDetroit is really pushing to promote that culture as far as alternative transportation. So that's sort of my new plight, is tours of the city of Detroit on a more personal level, because also there were a lot of people that I wanted to ride bikes with when I was on Slow Roll, but when you have thousands of people, you can't ride with everybody. So Ride is a smaller thing where you can book a tour to ride with me. And then once again, we're really trying to get as many people into alternative transportation and mobility as possible.
That's amazing. And now you mentioned that when we were talking earlier that you guys recently had to close down, because as we're recording this interview, we are in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. So how are things going for you in Detroit, and what's the vibe there right now amidst all of this global chaos that we have?
Everybody, people are still they're feeling good. We're really starting to feel the brunt of it now. But as a bike shop, we feel like we are kind of a vital part of the community as far as transportation. So we're kind of going through a thing where we're working with the state of Michigan to kind of get approved to open back up, because people do use bikes as transportation, not only as recreation. And so we need to be able to service those people as well. So that's been an up and down thing, but we're just keeping our spirits high. It's really cool because the governor has kind of mandated people to ride bikes to stay healthier these days and take walks. So I've been riding my bike a lot more, and I see a lot more people out on their bikes right now. So, we're just going to keep working to get through this. We're not going anywhere. We just opened. So once we get through this, hopefully there'll be a mad rush for e-bikes. So we'll see.
Yeah, I do hear these stories that lots of people are hopping on bikes right now. People are pulling the one out of the corner of the garage and dusting it off. People just need to get outside. So I think it's been good for bikes in that regard, for sure.
Before we closed, we had a steady line of people coming in because people wanted to, now that we have the quarantine and kids are home, kids can ride their bikes now. So we saw a huge influx of kids' bikes being sold and kids' bikes being tuned up. And then on the same thing, adult bikes were flying out the door because people, they want to be healthy. They want to get out of the house. And there's only a few ways you can do it. And so that's why we're kind of, like I said, we're really fighting with the state of Michigan to say this is vital for people's not only physical health, but their mental health as well.
So you seem rather unstoppable. You're a lifelong Detroiter. You've done so many amazing things already. What's your vision for the future of Detroit and for the bike scene in Detroit? Where do you want to go from here?
I really want to bring us back to the status of being the motor city, but the motor being alternative, and just having more e-bikes on the road or any type of alternative transportation. And let's just get Detroit back at the top of that conversation of where transportation starts and where it exists on a major level. And to get everybody on bikes. My goal has not changed since I changed my business model. I want everybody in Detroit to have accessibility to a bicycle, not rental. I want everybody in Detroit to own a bike. So if that means we have to find the funding to get everybody a bike, that's what we have to do. But that is my goal, is to have everybody have alternative transportation and access to it.
I think that's fantastic. Jason, thanks so much for joining me this morning. It's been great to talk with you. Stay safe out there. And I loved hearing more about what you're up to there. You do amazing work building community, and I appreciate having you out there in the world.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, folks, we were talking this morning with Jason Hall of RiDetroit. He is also the host of Film by Bike Detroit. We look forward to seeing that event come back as we're able to gather again. And this is part of our interview series where we're talking to super interesting people all around the world who are involved in bike culture. Jason is in Detroit, and you'll be able to share this interview with other folks. We look forward to talking to additional people. Check out our YouTube channel, subscribe, and you'll be able to find out when we have our next interviews coming live. So thanks everyone for tuning in this morning, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.